Tonight, funding may be up, but it's not enough to cover rising costs. As school board budgets roll in for approval, nearly 100 jobs are already on the chopping block. Also, from wildfires to flooding in a week, torrential rain overwhelmed some Saskatchewan communities in a matter of hours. Plus, the leadership hopefuls for the Saskatchewan NDP squared off last night in their final debate before the vote.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, June 14th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. 4 Saskatchewan school divisions have announced they are slashing a total of nearly 100 jobs due to budget shortfalls. And that is just the beginning. Yasmin Renea explains.
Didn't finish coloring it the other day.
Come this fall, at least 97 jobs in Saskatchewan schools will be cut to deal with budget shortfalls.
The public who, depend on public education and having a high quality public education in Saskatchewan should be quite disappointed in government for what they've done with the budget.
So far, 4 school divisions have announced staffing cuts, with more divisions expected to follow. Greater Saskatoon Catholic Schools will cut 19.5 full-time teaching positions. Saskatoon Public Schools will chop 19.6 teachers, as well as an educational psychologist position and half of a speech-language pathologist position. The Chinook School Division in the Southwest says it will cut 20 teaching positions, and the Southeast Corner Public School Division will axe 21.8 full-time teaching jobs and 11.6 non-teaching jobs, including educational psychologists and caretakers.
Or a snap judgment.
The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says students will ultimately bear the brunt of the cuts.
And so our students who need and depend on those supports are going to go without, and their education will suffer because of it. And it's especially critical in the lower grades for students to get the supports that they need.
Both Saskatoon public and Catholic schools will also charge parents for lunchtime supervision. School divisions say they have to cut services because of rising costs and lack of funding from the province.
I think the cuts are just unconscionable. The kids shouldn't have to suffer because the Sask Party has mismanaged money for such a long time.
On Friday, the Premier said school divisions can dip into their cash reserves. However,
I would agree that it's not sustainable. But
Regina Catholic Schools hasn't approved its budget yet, but its proposed budget shows that it plans to cut 13 teaching positions. That would push the total job cuts in Saskatchewan up to 110. All school divisions have until the end of the month to submit their budgets. Yasmin Renee, CBC News, Saskatoon.
After more than half a century in the Riversdale neighborhood of Saskatoon, Princess Alexandra School is closing. Today, officials and community members, staff and students held a closing ceremony and walk to honor it.
Princess Alexandra is not like any of our other schools. First of all, it has a history unlike any other. While this building was built over 60 years ago, this school community has extended over 115 years. A school was built first on this site in 1907. It was called Alexandra School, and it was named after Queen Alexandra, wife of King Edward VII.
I'm going to miss most of the parents and some of the students, and especially the staff. Staff was always so friendly.
A ceremonial fire was lit to symbolize the closing of one camp and the move to another. Led by a drummer, coal from that fire was carried on the walk to King George School, where students will go until their new school is built. Princess Alexandra will be demolished to make way for a new school. It will serve the King George, Pleasant Hill, and Princess Alexandra communities. Parts of Saskatchewan have been walloped by heavy rain these past 24 hours, and some communities are dealing with flooding tonight. Weather specialist Ethan Williams is here now with the latest. Ethan?
Well, Sam, the heaviest band of rain last night fell mostly in the central part of the province. And earlier today, I spoke with Ash Allam, the Chief Administrative Officer of the town of Battleford, and he says one subdivision there was particularly hard hit.
Crews are working there to pass the road and pass the driveways. It's about a little more than 8 driveways that is washed out because the roads are gravel road. And actually it's a downhill. So it's water run down those hills were pretty bad.
And this is some of that damage all that rain left behind in Battleford. Some streets were washed out, others sustained major damage. And Alum says a state of emergency was discussed but has not been issued as of tonight. He says longtime residents who work for the city have never seen anything like this. And other communities were impacted too. This is the town of Watrous around Manitou Lake. It was partially underwater last night as heavy rains fell there. And a few strong cells also caused flooding on farm fields east of Rosetown. Storm chaser Jenny Hagen grabbing photos and videos here between Rosetown and Zealandia last night of culverts overflowing. And the rain did come fast and furious, over 100 millimeters in the Battlefords. That is a June rainfall record, not an all-time rainfall record though. That was about 105 millimeters of rain in July of 2020, so we haven't quite beaten that out here. Watrous, as we mentioned, getting 55.1 millimeters of rain. Rosetown picking up 46 at the measuring site, but some places east of there, some reports on social media saying as many as maybe 5 inches, 130 millimeters possible with that just east of town. Spiritwood and Meadow Lake picking up around 30 millimeters as well. And keep in mind that this is from noon yesterday through to noon today, and these are from Environment Canada and volunteer reports as well. And Sam, coming up a little later in the show, I'll let you know just how long this rain is going to last and how much more is on the way.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
The two women vying to become the next leader of the Saskatchewan NDP went head-to-head in Regina last night. It was the final public debate between Caitlin Harvey and Carla Beck before the June 26th leadership vote. Adam Hunter was there and has the details.
The final debate of the abbreviated NDP leadership campaign showed how Regina Lakeview MLA Carla Beck and Saskatoon lawyer Caitlin Harvey differed on policy. Beck spoke about making life more affordable, but her main focus seemed to be selling and building the party.
Yes, even no matter who they voted for in the last election or if they voted at all, if we keep building together, we can win. I believe this. And we can put ourselves back in a position to deliver for Saskatchewan people every day.
While Harvey's message focused squarely on dealing with the impacts of climate change.
We need to be putting that message forward to people, bringing them in, saying, look, this is the facts. We have a big problem on our hands with climate change. We have a problem that we need to solve together. So let's just cut the crap and just sit down and get to work.
When asked about her priorities, Beck again focused on promoting the NDP.
Inside and outside the party. Too often, what people know about the Saskatchewan NDP is what the Sask party told them. We should not be hanging our heads. We need to hold our heads high. We need to tell our own story, and we need to build that future.
The only real tension of the debate came near the end. Harvey made a comment critical of Beck's campaign launch at a Regina area manufacturing shop and her attendance at the recent Weyburn Oil and Gas Show.
No more standing up in the warehouses of fracking companies and going to oil and gas shows and pretending like everything is hunky-dory and this is how we're supposed to run a province. No, enough is enough. So I step forward to say that, win or lose, come hell or high water, this is the message.
Beck did not respond to Harvey's comment. The two will take part in 2 forums with party members before the leadership election on June 26th in Regina. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
A Regina man who needs an expensive replacement part for his cochlear implants had a private meeting with the health minister today. Rod Rossmo was joined by the executive director of Saskatchewan Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services. Together, they met with Paul Merriman at the legislature. Rossmo has 2 cochlear implants and needs to replace the external sound processor. The company that makes it doesn't provide parts or service to old ones, and the province doesn't cover new ones, which cost about $11,000.
When I started to see that, boy, that's a significant cost, and there's got to be many, many people that can't afford it, and we really need to have some attention and some funding to help that community that is bearing these very difficult and critical expenses.
In a statement, Merriman said meetings like this can inform policy development. Saskatchewan's coverage is among the worst in the country. Quebec covers 100% of replacement cost. Manitoba pays for 80%. The Rough Riders are back to work after their convincing victory over Hamilton in the season opener. Now they prep for an opponent that's a little more of a work in progress. The Riders got into a defensive struggle with the Ticats through 3 quarters on Saturday, but then went on to dominate the fourth and win 30-13. This Saturday, they will be in Edmonton to face former Riders head coach Chris Jones and the Elks. The Elks were destroyed in their season opener, 59-15 in BC. It will be Craig Dickinson's job to keep his Riders even-keeled.
We told them expect a good game. And one thing we showed the players this morning was the final play of the last time we played them in Edmonton, where we had to go hands team to secure the win. So, yeah, you worry about them maybe not preparing as hard as they should, Glenn, but we really focused today anyways on improving ourselves, really working on our game and understanding that's a proud team over there, that's a proud group, a proud organization, and they're going to come out and play better than they did week 1.
Saturday's game kicks off at 7:30 in Edmonton. Swoop Airlines is officially flying in Saskatchewan. Today, the inaugural flight was welcomed in Saskatoon. A similar event is being held Thursday in Regina. Swoop flies return to Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Toronto out of both cities. The low-cost airlines offers cheap seats, but carry-on baggage, checked baggage, and seat selection will cost you extra. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. We definitely live on the Windy Plains, and that's not a bad thing if you're trying to harness it to power homes. Saskatchewan's largest wind farm officially opened in Assiniboia this morning. Jennifer Francis brings us the story.
These 50 wind turbines, just outside the town of Assiniboia, make up the Golden South Wind Project. It's the largest wind farm in Saskatchewan. The turbines stand 110 meters tall with a single blade spanning 47 meters. Each one harnessing the power of wind to generate electricity.
And that's our future. You know, you look outside and that's our future.
The mayor of Assiniboia says it's given their town a boost.
It has brought the general whole project, the excitement to our community of a future, of a sustainable future.
Potential Renewables began working on the project in 2009 and broke ground in 2019. It began operating at the end of March, but was officially opened Tuesday.
2, 3.
7 employees will oversee the wind farm, including an underground electrical collection system and transformer substation.
Wind power is the most economic form of new power. As others have mentioned, it's not a panacea. It's not going to do it all by itself. But on a kilowatt-hour basis, right now, it's the most economic.
Sask Power says Golden South can generate 200 megawatts of power, enough electricity for 100,000 houses. It will help the province's goal to cut emissions in half by 2030. But Minister Don Morgan says wind power isn't consistent, and the province is still banking on nuclear reactors and natural gas.
Everybody wants to move to renewables, which is great, but reliable base load is still necessary for the times when there's no wind or no sunlight. So we need to look at continuing with natural gas.
This wind farm has a lifespan of 25 years. That's when Potentia says the turbines will wear out. Sask Power says what will happen to the turbines at that time is still up in the air. It says it will reconsider its agreement with Potentia and the site could either be repowered or decommissioned. Jennifer Francis, CBC News, near Assiniboia.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. The exclusive export event is back.
And Ethan Williams joins me now with a look at your forecast. There is no shortage of wind here.
No, and in fact, Sam, those wind turbines, they're probably going to get a good workout tomorrow because the wind is going to pick up in that part of the province. But before the wind comes the rain, and we still have rainfall warnings in effect for a good portion of the Churchill region, and as well as the Melfort, Nipawin, Tisdale area, Prince Albert National Park, and up toward the South End Brabant Lake area as well. We're looking for between 50 and 70 millimeters of rain by the time we get to tomorrow evening. That system now mostly moving into northern Saskatchewan. Heavy bands of showers there. We had some pockets along the eastern part of the province in the Parkland region a bit earlier, but those are starting starting to die down a little bit now at this point. Here's how this system plays out for the rest of the night. We've got this big pinwheel low pressure system centered basically over the Alberta-Saskatchewan border. These heavy bands of rain are going to start to move into the Churchill region, into the La Ronge area this evening in Prince Albert National Park. And keep in mind that there could be some embedded thunderstorms in there as well, so some locally higher amounts there. This low pressure system now right over the province as we get into the wee hours. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, you'll notice mostly the western half of the province and the north picking up rain. But as we get into tomorrow afternoon, much of the province, including Regina and points eastward, will see another round of rain as the system starts to spread out a bit. And then it quickly de-intensifies as it heads into the overnight hours on Thursday and starts to move out. And then as we get into Thursday and Friday, we actually see clearing conditions through most of south and central, some lingering cloud cover in the north, but for the most part, we're looking for clear conditions going into Friday and into the weekend. Not ruling out another 50 to 75 millimeters as mentioned, and it looks like places like La Ronge and Meadow Lake could pick up maybe 50 millimeters or more overnight, even stretching as far north as Collins Bay. We could see precipitation, but Stony Rapids, Uranium City, Fond du Lac, that far north along the northern border, likely not going to be an issue. In the south, keep in mind Regina, Yorkton, Estevan. I think most of the rain has passed us by. Regina, I think we'll see a band tomorrow, but for the eastern part of the province, I think we're mostly done with that, but for areas that really need it, this western half of the province and into the west central areas, we could certainly see another good 15 to 20 millimeters. Now here's where winds pick up. This evening, they're gusting pretty gustily in the south, and as we get into tomorrow morning, we'll see those gusts pick up to 65, maybe even 70 kilometers an hour along the west central part of the province, and then they slide southward. Swift current getting close to 70 kilometer an hour wind gusts, and then heading through into Thursday, they do back off quite a bit, and really the only lingering effects we'll see are in that southeast corner. Slight thunderstorm risk along the eastern edge of the province tomorrow, but these are just mostly non-severe storms, and if anything does fire up, probably not a lot of threats in the way of that. Next 7 days in Regina, a rainy day tomorrow and windy as well. Saturday, that humidex making it feel into the 40s in the southern part of the province as the humidity really picks up. Saskatoon, maybe 5 millimeters at most, and then heading into a pretty nice weekend. And then, can you believe it, Sam? More rain heading into the beginning of next week.
More rain, more wind, more rain, more wind.
Kind of like spring in Saskatchewan.
Yes, but a nice Father's Day weekend so far.
That's right.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Very happy that I was able to grab 2 tickets.
Well, it's early in the CFL season, but today all eyes were on the Grey Cup. Tickets for the big game at Mosaic Stadium on November 20th went on sale to the general public this morning. Most of the lower bowl is sold out, but there are still some tickets available. You can grab them through the Riders Ticket Office or online through Ticketmaster. What's left range in price from $185 up to $543. We'll be back after the break. COVID-19 vaccination mandates for plane and train travel in Canada are coming to an end, at least for now. It also applies to people leaving on international trips. And vaccine requirements are also being suspended for public servants and federally regulated transport workers. David Cochran reports.
At Canada's largest airport, opinions are mixed on lifting vaccine mandates.
I feel a little bit safer knowing that people around me are vaccinated.
As long as people are still required to wear masks, then, we're in no different scenario than we are anywhere else in public space. So I'm okay with it.
The virus is still very prevalent. People are still getting sick and people are still dying.
The opinion is mixed, but the government is clear.
On June 20th, our government will suspend the requirement to be vaccinated in order to board a plane or train in Canada.
It doesn't just apply to travelers, but also to unvaccinated government employees who have been on unpaid leave since last year.
Employees who are on administrative leave without pay as a result of the vaccination policy will be contacted by their managers to resume regular duties with pay.
It's a shift they say they can make because cases are low, vaccination rates high, but also because the evolution of COVID meant a 2-dose mandate made little sense.
With Omicron, things changed. Vaccine efficacy waned. The longer you were from your vaccine, the less protection you had.
And so a shift in policy while the weather stays warm and transmission remains low. But a warning, it could change again by the fall.
If the situation
takes a turn for the worse, we are prepared to bring back the policies necessary to protect Canadians.
It's important to note these mandates are suspended, not canceled, which means if cases rise, unvaccinated travelers could be banned again from planes and trains, and unvaccinated civil servants could be placed back on unpaid leave. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
Health Canada wants to add warning labels to some foods that are high in sugar, salt, and saturated fat. There are some exceptions, but ground beef is not one of them. As Aaron Collins reports, that's one reason cattle producers and the Alberta government are voicing their opposition.
Customers have been lining up at this Calgary butcher shop for more than a century. And just as it always has been, ground beef and pork are big sellers. But unless that ground meat is extra lean, it could soon come with a warning label.
My initial reaction is it's ridiculous. And the reason being is, at what point in time, where does this stop?
Confusion about why ground beef and pork were targeted and concern about what else might need a label down the road.
Does that mean now we're going to have to do it on sausages, we're going to have to do it on pork, we're going to have to do it on hamburger patties, we're going to have to do it on absolutely everything? I mean, there's going to be a saturated fat in whatever you're going to eat. Like, do we have to do it on steaks too? Like, where does this go?
Steaks and other whole cuts of meat would be exempt, but sausages may need a sticker. Warning labels would also be applied to food high in sugar and salt as well as saturated fat. But ranchers and their supporters feel singled out. They want an exemption to the front of package labeling like the one given to dairy products.
Labeling ground beef an affordable, nutritious, and versatile protein and a staple food for most Canadians is misleading and does not make sense to us.
Bad for the industry and bad for provinces like Alberta.
This restrictive labeling proposal for ground meat could have significant market consequences for Alberta producers, increasing production costs, lowering consumer purchases, and decreasing exports.
And if Canadians turn away from ground beef and pork, it could also hurt many families' bottom line.
Essentially, you're going to see a federal agency discouraging Canadians from eating what is arguably probably the cheapest and most affordable animal protein there is right now at the meat counter.
No word yet on when customers might actually see the new labels, but little concern here that a sticker will curb Canadians' taste for beef. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And we'll see cloud cover build into Regina and some showers tonight, Sam. By 8 a.m., we'll see a few showers. Winds gusting close to 50 kilometers an hour. We'll be at 12 degrees. Get to the noon hour, and it's pretty much just straight rain from this point on. Southwest winds gusting around 40 kilometers an hour or so. Not going to be very warm. We're only at 13 by noon. In Saskatoon, we'll see cloudy conditions at 8 a.m. There is a chance we could see some showers at 12 degrees, and we will get to the noon hour sitting at 16 with winds gusting out of the north to about 30 kilometers an hour. Chance of showers there at that point as well. And tonight, if it's clear, especially in the southern part of the province, there is a full moon. We have the strawberry moon, and it's a super moon because the moon is closest to its orbit around the Earth, and it's known for its little shade of red and pink, and usually the time of year, according to the Farmer's Almanac, when we see the strawberries in full bloom. And so, Sam, you might want to go and check it out if you can see it and it's not too rainy.
Super night for a super moon.
Indeed.
Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Oh, well, that's it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news at 11. We're back tomorrow at 5:30. Thanks for watching and have a great night.